Over Canada. Big round of applause for Aisha Alfa, everybody.
Hi. My name is Aisha, and I think it's a pretty easy name, right? 2 syllables, it's simple enough. Just Aisha. People get it wrong all the time, though. Like, I get a lot of like, oh, hi, Aisha, how are you? Like, I'm not from the bayou, calm it down over there, you know? But like Alicia, I just don't understand why people can't get the name right. It's simple.
Hi, I'm Aisha Alfa, and we are in beautiful Toronto, Canada, and this is Theorematic.
If that's your name, it should be pronounced properly. It should be. And my friends get really annoyed. They're like, you know what? Calm your roll. Like, just tell people your full name if you want.
You know what? To be honest, my story of how I became a comedian is very different from a lot of people. I didn't grow up big into comedy. I grew up more into like Motown and music. Like from then, I remember like listening to records with my parents in the front room and stuff. And then I was an athlete, so I played soccer. I was a competitive gymnast, and I played team sports, and I ended up playing soccer in university. Went overseas to play soccer, played in a men's league in Korea. That was my life. Never had performed, never had, done comedy, anything. And then moved back to Canada because I was like, I wanted to change my life. I was partying a lot. I was dating a guy who owned one of the biggest bars in Korea. I was making money. I was traveling. And then I was kind of like, I don't know if this is what I want my life to be about, So I moved back and didn't know what I wanted to do. Started worked for a business development bank, did some fundraising stuff, tutored for a bit, worked as a wedding planner, got hired as a flight attendant, just trying to figure my life out. Ended up starting to do life coaching stuff and working with groups. And then got into acting to start a different path in that way. And through acting, had an opportunity to try comedy one time. And I'm like, oh, what's the scariest thing I could do? Comedy. Let me try that and get outside my comfort zone and just tick it off my box of things I want to do in life. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to do it one time and that's it. I mean, I wasn't really into comedy. I had gone to see comedy sometimes. And then I just really liked it and got offered more shows. Did it a handful of times and was like, let me try this, And then it kind of took off from there. And now I do comedy a lot and I really love doing it. But I almost feel sometimes I feel in the comedy community, a little bit people look down on that. If you haven't loved comedy your whole life and you're not a comedy nerd and I'm not, I'm more of a goofy comic. I like to tell stories. I like to be silly. I move around. I go into deep squats a lot and make weird faces. And so I think sometimes there's people who are pure comedians, stand-up comedians who are just oh, you didn't listen to the album of 76. You're okay, calm it down. You know what I mean?
I love dancing. I love traveling. Traveling's such a great way to just chill and see the world and see what everything's about. Love traveling.
Well, to be honest, when I started, I didn't think I was either, and I'm sort of discovering more and more that I think that I'm a performer, essentially, is what my real talent is. And I think sometimes I had to write my jokes out and send them in for festivals, for televised things. And when I write it out, I'm like, oh, is this even funny? You know what I mean? But it's the performance of the joke that makes it funny, and that's where my most fun comes out. But I'm also a dramatic actor. I love acting as well, and I think that some of the best dramatic actors are comedy actors, or people who are comedians who can act. Because as comedy, you have to go on stage and you basically are just, you can tell jokes and you can have a canned set, and people are like, okay, that's funny. But if you go on there, and the people who we love the most, like Richard Pryor and Carlin and Louis C.K. and these Amy Schumer, these people who are Sarah Silverman, going out there and just being this is how I really feel. I don't care if you like it, but barfing their souls basically on there and being really naked. Those are the people who are great. Sarah Silverman in I Smile Back. I don't know if you saw that. Man, I sat in the theater afterwards just dumbfounded because I was this is what I want. You know what I mean? I want to be able to do the comedy and be out there and then at some point show that behind all this comedy that all comedians are doing is this vulnerable human being who just wants to be accepted, respected, and loved, And that's how we all are as human beings. But I think actors, I think performers, I think comedians are constantly exposing that part of themselves to the world to be judged. What is wrong with us? You know what I mean? We go on stage and we're here's my biggest, deepest, darkest secret, my most awkward moment, my worst part of me, and then you're going, what do you think? So it's kind of, it's the best to be a comedian because it's a big high when you do well and it's the lowest low when you do badly.
Oh, we're from Switzerland. I was well, that's nice, Switzerland. And I'm trying to sound intelligent. I'm well, I know this about Switzerland. You guys have great chocolate.
I mean, not to step on the stage the first couple times because the stakes weren't high for me. I was just like, I'm just gonna try this. I don't care. You know what I mean? The first time I went to an open mic, that was the biggest stakes I had when I first started because I was like, now I'm saying I want to do this, and now I'm going out there in front of other comedians, and I'm going to be judged, and I care what they think. And I remember I went and was outside the open mic I was going to go to in Winnipeg multiple times, like multiple weeks before I actually went in. I would go and sit and have a coffee across the road, and then I'm like, I can't do it. And I'd go back home, you know. And then eventually I went in, and it was nerve-wracking and intimidating, and there was, it was like all this clique of guys who had been doing it together and all knew each other, and I'm like, hey, can I get in here, you know? And there's all this talk about like women in comedy and all this kind of stuff, and I have two minds about it because it's like, it is different for women than it is for men, but it's different for a lot of different kinds of people than it is for anybody else. And also, I think that the world is against women in a lot of ways. It's not just comedy, So we have to step up harder a lot of the times. But then it's like now, back in like the 80s when it was, gay comedians and all this stuff, and now it's like trans comedians, and there's all kinds of different things that are just not mainstream. It's hard for everybody in different ways, and it's hard for, maybe there's men who aren't very masculine. It's hard for them probably in a different way than it is for other people, like whatever your thing is. But yeah, I think it's like when I remember that first comedy night in Winnipeg, and it's like Mike Green, who's one great friend of mine, and the way he ran his night was just kind of like, who you be, you know what I mean? Like, who are you? Well, I'll give you 2 minutes to see what you can do. And then you have to like go and prove yourself. And if you don't do well, you have to keep coming back. And like, that's the process for stand-up, is you just have to keep putting yourself out there until people like you.
He's like, yeah, we do. We do have great chocolate. Would you like some? And I was like, yeah, I would.
The first paid gig I had was a commercial in Winnipeg, Manitoba for bankapproved.ca. And it was this website that like gave loans to people who couldn't get a loan anywhere else. And I remember the guy who was booking it was like, all right, I'm going to give you a check for $300. And I was like he thinks he's ripping me off because he was. And I thought I was ripping him off because I'm like, I'm going to do one day work and get $300 just for sales. I'm like, okay, So I did it, and then this commercial, like everyone loved it. They played it all the time. So he got me to do more, and he's like, well, how much do you want to get paid? And I was like, $500, you know what I mean? And then the next one was like $600. And I'm like, oh, this idiot doesn't get it. Like, I'm overcharging him. Meanwhile, once I get into the union, I realized you're getting like thousands of dollars to do one commercial spot for like a small run. This commercial has been running nonstop during Super Bowl in Canada and stuff like that in Winnipeg for like 5 years. And I've never gotten paid anymore. No residuals, nothing whatsoever. But, it's kind of funny how then things change. And now, I'm in Toronto right now because I filmed the Beavertons, which is a new TV show, comedy news TV show in Canada. And, you're getting paid for the shooting of it. You're getting paid for the residual kind of thing that we have in Canada called the buyout. You're getting paid to like fly down. Like you get paid now. And then when you go to the States, that pay goes up about 2,000%. Yeah, it's an insane difference between Canada and the States. So it's just funny looking back now. And one of my friends was like, I think that commercial is still going on. You know what I mean?
Where is it? Where's this magical chocolate you speak of? He's like, well, come with me. I'll show you where. And I literally hopped off the bar stool, hand in hand with some 55-year-old man. And in France, an old man.
When I hosted the Winnipeg Folk Festival, there's like 30,000 people in the audience at times and 60,000 who come through during the weekend. And I remember the first year I did it, I actually did some comedy on stage. And it's really funny how like you're outside and it's this huge audience, and comedy works differently. I love doing comedy in small venues. You know what I mean? Low ceiling, small venues. But yeah, I've done that. I mean, when I was at Just for Laughs, I was doing bigger venues with thousands of people and stuff like that. But I don't know. I love when I'm performing to small audiences because you just get to goof around more, and you can like call people out and have fun with people, and everyone in the whole place can see, oh, that's who she's talking. Oh, look at him, you know what I mean? Look at that hair on him. Like they get in on the joke. Whereas if you're in a big theater, you know what I mean? Like a couple thousand people, they're trying to see who you're talking to. And I love talking to the audience and riffing and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that's my jam, is smaller, intimate settings. But yeah, I've performed to big. I feel personally people sometimes get scared to perform to big audiences because they're like, there's so many people. My theory is, there's more people, someone's bound to laugh in that. Like if you have 2,000 people, someone's bound to enjoy your jokes, and then that's contagious and everyone's going to laugh. Whereas if you have like, 150 people, you're like, let's see if they like me, But see, I think you kind of work harder almost sometimes to make them like you because it's more intimate,
Right? So we're going, and then he just goes, okay, it's just down here, down this back alley. I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. I'm leading him at this point. Like, let's
Being like sure and confident in yourself and how you do comedy. Because I'll often, right before I go on, I'm like, oh my God, nothing I say is funny. Like I just did a show, and right before I went on, Reggie Watts dropped in, and then Eddie Pepitone dropped in. And then they're like, great, and now Aisha Alfa, and everyone's like, who the hell's this, And I started to get in my head and be like, oh man, I'm not funny. I just flew after these two legends and stuff like that. It's just crazy. And I kind of was like going on apologetically. And they're like, the audience is kind of like, who this, you know what I mean? But if you just go out and you're like, hey, it's me, this is what I do, here's how I go, people just respect it and they're on board faster and they think you're funnier. So I think it's just always remembering to, no matter what your style is or what you do, to like do that. Do yourself, because no one else can do it,
Into the end of the back alley where there's just a van waiting there with no windows on the van. And I was like, great, what's the holdup here, buddy?
I think most of my stuff is really stories that have happened to me. That's why it's easier for me to remember a long set list, because it's just stories of my life and things I think about, And then it like extrapolates it, makes it like absurd or ridiculous somehow in there, makes it funnier. But I'm more based in reality and storytelling, I think. Now I'm taking a class at Groundlings and I'm working on doing more character stuff because I love characters and just like being ridiculous and stupid and goofy. So I don't know if that'll work into my stand-up so much, but I think I'll start to do some other things that has to do with characters, whether it's, videos for YouTube or for shows or doing just other like character work on stage that's just in its own, world. So it's kind of fun. I'm just excited about, the next couple of years and change. Like it's a new world I'm working in now. And changing it up and exploring and figuring stuff out for myself a little bit more. So it's kind of cool.
But it's different. It's different for men and women, isn't it? And the measurement's different. Like orgasms, everyone should be having orgasms. It's amazing. It's woo! Christmas present to yourself. Everyone should be. It's actually important. It's a great way to relieve stress. It's good for your mental health, for your physical health. Like everyone should be having like an OJ and an O in the morning. Is all I'm saying.